Well, what is he going to give is what everybody's expecting? Effectively, that's always the question. The D-Day itself, a lot of people are going to be very disappointed because effectively they're going to be trying to find words in his speech which maybe they didn't like or were expecting and he didn't give them. But overall, don't forget, Mr. Draghi has been saying over and over and over again, I will do whatever it needs.
And earlier this week, he really seemed to be preparing the ground and preparing expectations for more easing when he mentioned inflation expectations.
Exactly. So we will not be surprised, in fact, if we're going to see more coming out of him. Is he going to be aggressive as he has been in the past or less aggressive as he has been the last time where a lot of people were upset because he wasn't aggressive enough? That I do not know. More importantly is effectively to see what is going to be put in place. And as far as we can see, and as far as I can see, he's going to deliver, and he's going to deliver in the long term. Because don't forget that Mr. Draghi is not looking for next week's results. He's not looking what's happening next month. Mr. Draghi is looking where is the European economy going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. That's where he's interested.
Specifics, does it make sense to take the deposit rate further into negative territory, considering the impact on NIMs and the European banks?
You can say yes and no. There are always two camps. If you listen to the banking sector overall, of course, they are not very, very pleased because it's really starting to eat into their margins. So they're not going to be very, very pleased as that's going to be happening. On the other hand, you can say effectively, well, it may be very, very good because they're going to be forced really to lend. So for the overall economy, it's going to be better. Effectively, well, it is to be seen what is going to be happening there. The banking sector is for sure, they're not going to be pleased. That's also why we've got a neutral stance on the banking sector at this moment, and we prefer relatively the insurance sector over the banking sector.
All right, European markets are looking confused. Your words.
Yep.
I agree, because of the politics, because of the policy risks ahead. Tactically, you were telling me off camera, don't be a hero, be boring, go defensive.
Exactly. Well, that's something we have been saying since the beginning of this year. We continue to say that as well. If we look, for example, one of the sectors we like is the regulated utilities. You know what is happening in there. A very good example would be Snam. If you saw what has happened in Italy, if you saw what the regulations which has been put in place in Italy, Snam is going to be a very safe investment at least to 2018, see 2020. So that's why effectively we like that very, very much. You can see something similar also in the UK if you want to play it in the UK. The same is can be said also on infrastructure names like Vinci, Eiffage. Maybe not the most sexy names like an LVMH or a Kering, but effectively going forward, low interest rates, that's exactly where those companies start outperforming because of course they are using a lot of capital, and very low capital is what we need. Now, another point which a lot of people seem to forget is, don't forget that if you look at the car sales, they have been exploding in Europe. If you look at the truck sales, especially if I listen to what Mr. Scania said, the CEO from Scania, he foresees a record year, meaning effectively more and more trucks going on the toll roads. That is extremely good for, of course, the toll road operators like an Eiffage, like a Vinci. If also effectively oil prices remain low, like expected, not only by us, but like the whole world, including the big oil companies, then of course people will tend to drive more as well. Again, another positive for the toll operators.
I've got to ask you about Brexit, and let's quote The Clash, should I stay or should I go? Yep. Rewind back to 1975 and the Bay City Rollers. Bye bye, baby. Yep. We're showing our age here, but the point that I want to make, and I think you hit upon a good one, it's Britain back in 1975 voted to embrace continued membership of the EEC. Yep. Does history repeat itself on June the 23rd?
Well, that is on to the British to decide, to be honest with you, but if I look at human nature, they tend not to really have a lot of change. Just look, if we look a few months back.
But from a pure market, financial services and economic perspective, it makes sense to stay in Europe, doesn't it?
It does.
The London and the city is seen by China, by foreign investors as such a pivotal gateway into Europe.
No, it definitely does, and that is effectively, well, the English people are not going to vote because of London. The financial sector is going to be important for the rest. They're going to be voting for themselves, as far as I know, that I should be voting for my interest if I would be an Englishman. If I look at human nature, you will see that human nature doesn't really like change. Look what happened if we take into account the Scottish referendum. Everybody was saying they would leave the UK. They're still in. If I look back 2 months in France when we had the regional elections, Marine Le Pen from Front National was supposed to take 3 regions. She didn't get any. So it shows that people, as long as the economic situation is more or less good, they will vote for continuity. If it is something very different, look what happened in Iran, then effectively you will see something very different. Now, Brexit or not Brexit, where I would be looking at is UK real estate, and especially at British land. If you look effectively the discount to NAV on British land, it makes no sense at all at this moment.
Yeah.
And especially if you start comparing this also with the continental REITs. Effectively, the UK REITs are trading with massive discounts. It is like we are sitting in a very deep recession at this moment.